then they stop them and they say, mind the gap, and they all climb on and then let them go. Right. I mean, we are going to start here with, I say that big film of the week, which is Dune 2. Trying to find my piece of paper. So in Dune 2, after betrayal by the Emperor, played by Christopher Walken in this film, and Baron Harkonnen, returning from the first film, played by Stellan Skarsgård, the House of Atreides is all but destroyed. But Paul Atreides, played by Timothée Chalamet, and his mother, played by Rebecca Ferguson, have survived, and they seek acceptance from the Fremen. Some see Paul as the new Messiah, but others, non-believers, think he's just a very naughty boy and see him as a dangerous spy. Let's see a clip.
You've been fighting the Harkonnens for decades.
Look!
My family's been fighting them for centuries.
Your blood comes from dukes and great houses. Here, we're equal. What we do for the benefit of all.
Well, I'd very much like to be equal to you.
Maybe I'll show you the way.
Nothing like a good snog on a sand dune, is there? And takes me back to my teenage days. Right. Too much information.
Definitely.
This is epic in the true sense of the word, I have to say. There's action, there's adventure, there's revenge, there's death, there's new life, there's love, as you saw there. There is loss, and there's more than a good old dose of religion. And all of this stuff gets mixed up by Denis Villeneuve and splattered onto the widescreen with absolutely superb sound and a wonderful score by Hans Zimmer. The desert scenes you see are really something, and this is a film that really you have to see on the big screen. The actual deserts were in Abu Dhabi, Jordan, and Namibia, but I was utterly engrossed in this, I have to say. I think the key thing in the film, and I said after coming out, well, that's the Oscar for best sound wrapped up, is the sound design, right from the deafening opening words spoken in some foreign language. I'm not sure which alien language it's supposed to be. The rest of the sound combined with the music, there are points, as in Oppenheimer, when your seat actually physically starts to vibrate underneath you with the low sounds coming out of the speakers. I say Hans Zimmer score. Again, I'll be surprised if this doesn't win best Oscar for next year for best score. And the actual cinematography is superb. Many of the pictures that you see on the screen, you could pluck off the screen and stick on an art gallery wall, I think, and charge people to go and see it. I thought the acting was really good, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some acting nominations that come out of this film. I thought particularly well with Javier Bardem and Rebecca Ferguson. I thought they were both particularly good in this. Zendaya is just magnetic in it. And for once, Willy Wonka actually didn't look too bad. I didn't actually think of him as Timothée Chalamet for a lot of the film. I thought he did a good job. Almost unrecognizable in the film is Austin Butler as this psychotic Fade Rafa. And I thought he was really good. And there was also a surprise cameo, which I actually put in my online review, but I won't spoil on this podcast, of somebody that I wasn't expecting to see in the film. So that was terrific. My only negatives were, it's a long old film, but for me, it wasn't long enough. There were times when some of the scenes just felt quite rushed. And there was a few examples. Some of the battle scenes seem to be almost finished too early. There's like a gladiatorial scene in the finale, which I thought could have gone on as in kind of the film Gladiator for a good 8 or 9 minutes of back and forth and playing to the crowd. But it kind of ends very suddenly. And I actually thought that this could have been a part 2 and a part 3 here. both as 2-hour films rather than having a nearly 3-hour squashed together part one. It just felt to me as if it was a little bit stuck, squashed in rather into this feature. But I absolutely loved it, and I'll now hand over to Scott, who I know was not necessarily a fan of the original Dune.
Yeah, I think me and Emma both mentioned in the previous episode we were on that we weren't big fans. I think there is a lot going on, a lot of characters, a lot of tribes, a lot of heavy lore that you have to try and understand. It was long and, in my opinion, a little bit boring at points. Not all of it, but some of it was. And so I went into this one hopeful, and I did enjoy this much more.
Okay.
I thought that if I was going to say the negatives, I would say I did not feel the emotional connection that a lot of people have with this. And perhaps that is because there's so much going on that I didn't fully understand what I was watching all the time. And because there was so many characters, I was thinking, who are they? What's their relationship to them again? And how are they connected? And what does that mean for that person if that person over there is doing this? And I was trying to think about it when I was watching it to the point where I'm like, I wasn't fully engaged in what I was watching because I was too busy trying to figure it out. And so that part left me a little bit cold. But in terms of pure filmmaking, I mean, I could just rattle through Oscar categories at this point: cinematography, visual effects, sound, score.
Absolutely.
It's just all of these things that Denis Villeneuve and the rest of the team behind it have put together is fantastic. Production design, costume design, particularly with Florence Pugh's costumes, and I thought everything she was wearing looked really stylish.
Everything she did, I think, was fabulous in this film. I just wanted to see more of her.
I mean, just in general, Florence Pugh is just amazing anyway. So, yeah, I think the performances were good across the board. I don't see Oscar nominations for the acting, unless there's a very sort of dark horse Austin Butler surprise supporting nomination. I don't feel that this is an acting movie, but will it be like the previous movie where it picks up like all of the techs? Possibly. But then in Oscar history, how often do you find that when a movie does haul, that then the sequel hauls on all the same ones?
Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, I was going to say Lord of the Rings. That one Best Picture, didn't it, for Return of the King?
Yeah.
This feels like it could be a Best Picture winner as well for me.
Well, the thing is that Return of the King was the final one, and there's a big question mark with this in terms of, is this the end?
No. I believe Dune Messiah has already been.
Has it been announced?
Yeah.
Okay. Because, the way it ended, I was like, wait a minute, I didn't know that there was going to be a third one, and then you've just left this open to this whole other story. And I was like, so it's like the last one where at least the last one we knew it wasn't the end, whereas this one, it got to the end and I'm like, there's still more story. I was like, But yeah, so I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say I love these Dune movies, but I was definitely entertained with this one.
Good. Andy, anything to add?
I just absolutely loved it, Bob. I'm with you. It's not very often we say that a film isn't long enough. I agree. I could have sat there longer and watched a lot more. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I grew up reading the Dune books, and Scott, you say about how much more story is there. There were actually 23 Dune books. So we've got the potential for an awful lot more movies, and who knows? I mean, I could perhaps see this becoming a TV series as a spin-off, perhaps, with telling the rest of the Dune books, in the sort of spin-off series. I
think it's fair to say that the Dune book, the quality of the books tended to...
they did. I mean, I read all 23. Decline. And they did go slowly downhill after the first couple, But I really loved it. And having seen the David Lynch version, remember seeing that at the cinema, which was a total and utter mess. This is incredible. This is fantastic. The worms looked more impressive than last time.
Man, don't they? When they come out those dunes like that.
Yeah.
It's absolutely.
The story is progressing. The story progressed nicely. For me, this is one of the best sequels I've seen since Aliens. and I really just thought it was excellent. I can't add much more to what you guys have said, but I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I will be first in the queue for Dune Messiah when it comes out. Yeah.
I had one other quibble, that you see the efforts that Paul Atreides has to run at full pelt along a sand dune and jump on the back of one of these worms as it's whizzing along. And yet somehow, right, they put a whole bunch of people together with a kind of elephant howdah type construction on the back of one of these worms.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Is there some dune subway station somewhere that they're not showing us, where the worms get pushed down this tunnel and then they stop them and they say, mind the gap, and they all climb on and then let them go? Right. I mean,
if Bryce Howard can outrun a T-Rex in high heels in a storm, anything's possible.
That was my one quibble. I say I don't want to piss all over the sci-fi fans.
Didn't even occur to me, to be honest, Bob.
But I thought, how on earth did they all get on there? Yeah. Scores on the doors then for Dune. I'm going to give this one a 10 out of 10. Scott?
For me, it's a 7.
7. And Andy?
It's a 10.
10, so that's 27 divided by 3. That's a 9.0 for the Flickering Dreams score, making Dune Part 2 a hit. Wonderful.